Good evening, Tallahassee. This is student meteorologist Elizabeth Temple with your Monday edition of FSU weather. We are taking our first look over Doak Campbell Stadium tonight, and we're seeing those clouds move in, and now they're covering up our beautiful sunset that we had seen earlier. It has cooled down slightly to 76 degrees, and we're seeing those showers move through. It's pretty windy right now, winds out of the south-southwest at 15 miles per hour, and we can see those we can see the showers move in from the west into our local area, and then we'll see those clouds persist into the night. It's going to get to 69 degrees, and winds are going to slow down coming out of the south-southwest at 5 miles per hour. And for tomorrow, it's going to be a warm day again, 84. Those clouds are going to stick through, and the winds are going to pick up again out of the west-southwest at 5 miles per hour. So we have a lot of wintry weather. In the west, it is warm and windy here, and so we'll talk about wind and fire safety. All that and more tonight on FSU Weather.
Thanks, Elizabeth. That's right. We have a lot to talk about today as we have the wintry weather out in the west, the brutal heat here we've been experiencing over the past week or so across Tallahassee. And also, if you haven't lost your hat already today, we had that wind today across much of the metro area with that, of course, that southerly wind that brought us actually a lot of that moisture and that heat that's building in from the Gulf of Mexico. And that's what's actually partially fueling really overall our entire really muggy and warm weather we've been experiencing over the last several days. But Spencer, how is it looking over the next several days or so as we transition into more, at least for the rest of the week?
Well, Aaron, as I'm sure everyone in the Tallahassee area has noticed the last few days, it's going to be really, really hot here in Tallahassee and the greater southeast, actually. But for tonight's headline, and there we go, for our look at Doak right now, we can see it's 76 degrees with a south-southwest wind at 15 miles an hour. This is what Aaron was talking about. We have some pretty decent wind gusts going on today. And right now in Tallahassee, we have a bit of a warm spot, 79 degrees, and 75 in Crawfordville, 72 in Apalachicola, 73 in St. Mark, so it's just a little bit cooler in those cities that are hugging the coastline. And taking a look at our wind speed, so we do have a remnant high pressure here in the Gulf of Mexico, which is bringing these clockwise winds onshore. So you can see here 15 miles an hour in Tallahassee, 12 miles an hour out in Quincy. And our temperature almanac. So this is essentially a look back in time of how temperatures have been. So our average, we can see just about sitting in the low 70s and the mid 40s. So that's our average. So we're sitting very high above the average. Actually, we are tying for the 1944 record for the warmest day, well, for today at least. And the low, not even anywhere close, 17 degrees in 1974. Thank God we are far away from those temperatures. So really, we don't have too much precipitation going on. We can just see a little bit of clouds, possibly from the sea breeze, making their way on the shore, just with the general direction of the winds. This is not anything severe that we need to be worried about. As well, overnight, we will have some increased cloud cover. And this is partly why we see some of that patchy fog, or even some dense fog here in Tallahassee in the mornings during the winter time. So for tonight, we can expect temperatures around 69 degrees, partly cloudy, with winds of 5 miles an hour out of the south-southwest. And tomorrow, if you plan on driving tomorrow morning, no chances of precipitation really to speak of, and those temperatures are going to start off warm and then get hot as the day goes on. We're going to start off in the low 70s, and by 9 o'clock and by noon, that's going to be pushing 80 degrees. By 3 o'clock, well over 80 degrees. As well for tomorrow, like I've mentioned, temperatures in the mid-80s across the board. A little bit cooler here in Perry, 80 degrees, 76 in St. Mark's, as well as Carabel, 77 in Apalachicola, where it's a little bit cooler along the coast. A warm spot here in Tallahassee at 84 degrees. And taking a look at the next 7 days, we can see blisteringly warm temperatures for this time of year and just a little bit of cooling down on the weekend. So Caitlin, tell us a little bit more about what it's looking like in Florida.
The whole state of Florida is not much different than Tallahassee. Unfortunately, right now it's looking hot, cloudy mornings, lots of sunshine by the afternoon, and ample amounts of heat. And I don't think any of us are staying below 70 for too long during the day. We're only dipping about 60s at night. It's definitely a warm one for the Sunshine State. And current temperatures right now are just looking warm. 80 degrees is going to be the highest one in Miami. They tend to be 84 is the highest one in West Palm. They tend to be the warmest down south, but we're all looking at some pretty blistering temperatures for this time of year. It is March. Doesn't look like it on the map. It's February. March is coming later this week. It doesn't look like that on the map right now. And dew points are showing us it's really humid and muggy right now. Florida tends to be away, but like even Pensacola, 20 degrees for their dew points, so everyone's extra moisture and lots of heat. Definitely feeling like summer. I wouldn't even say spring. Temperatures in the 80s with dew points in the 60s and 70s, that's just muggy and hot. No one likes that. And precipitation is not going to be a factor. All of those weather systems tend to be staying clear of the sunshine state. Going to have very much change to the weather pattern until later this week. So we're all looking to stay in the 80s and 60s for our lows. And rain is not going to be too big of a concern. But it's raining out in Miami. Alligators are sweating. It's just hot this week. We're going to be seeing 85 degrees on Tuesday, and it's really not going to cool down until Thursday. It's just going to be hot and sunny and humid. That tends to be the typical state for Florida. But for our friends in Tampa, you guys are hot as well. You got a little bit of chance of rain. You guys are on the bay, so you got that sea breeze acting the way it typically does. But you might want to go to a Tampa Bay Lightning game because they've got the cooler inside auditorium because it's just going to be warm in Tampa. And our friends in Orlando, my brother lives there. You guys topped 90 degrees last weekend, and you guys are going to be brushing it for the next couple of days, sitting at 89 on Thursday. So I wouldn't be surprised that even some isolated areas are seeing that 90-degree temperature. And you guys are also going to have a little bit of chance of rain. We've just got those summer-like patterns right now for the state of Florida. For our friends in Jacksonville, I don't have any weird anecdote for you guys. Just going to be hot and sunny. And it's 86 degrees for the next 2 days. You guys are looking at a pretty typical weather pattern for them as well. And for our friends in the Panhandle, it's spring break season, so you've got an influx of people from the Alabama and Mississippi and other colleges having a blast over there. And they've got some wonderful weather to finish out their spring break. It's looking at mid-80s for the forecasting ahead. You're going to have a little bit of chance of rain on Thursday. You will have a chance of rain on Friday as the system finally moves on through, cooling you down for next weekend. Here's that look at that system that's going to help us to bring a little bit of rainfall, helping with these like fire dangers we're going to be talking about later. It's not going to be much of a change. Very little amounts of rain is in the forecast for the rest of this week. We're not going to see a weather maker until Friday. And for tonight's forecast, we're still looking really warm. Temperatures only getting right below 70 degrees. Everyone's just looking very hot for the Sunshine State. But I'm going to pass things off to Elizabeth. She's going to talk a little bit more about the Southeast. What's happening in the Southeast?
So just like in the state of Florida, we are sitting at pretty much above average temperatures for the rest of the Southeast. Again, we have this giant area of red here, which means it is very warm. We're sitting at 78 in New Orleans, 77 in Shreveport, 74 in Atlanta, and even 81 in Montgomery, Alabama. So quite warm and pretty muggy in those areas as well. So here we're seeing a pretty similar wind pattern for the majority of the Southeast. We're having those southerly winds, which is bringing in that moisture from the Gulf, and it is very windy in most of the areas as well. It is 11 in Jackson, Mississippi, 14 in Montgomery, and even 18 miles per hour in Atlanta. So quite windy across the rest of the Southeast as well. And also for the majority of the region, we're not going to see much as far as precipitation goes, except we do have this frontal system that is moving through the area that is bringing some showers and storms to our neighbors in North Carolina and Virginia, and a little bit in South Carolina as well. But as we see that move through, we aren't going to have too much of an issue for most likely the next day or two. And so here we have that, we have pretty dry air north of the Southeast, dry air for the bottom of the Southeast, but pretty wet across the middle of the Southeast there as well. And here is that moisture, once again, as we see that front move through, we see that drier air behind the front, but as of right now, we can't really avoid the humidity in the region. And for our Storm Prediction Center storm outlook for today, we had a marginal risk up in our northern parts of the country. Up in Ohio, they were seeing some tornado warnings there, and then a non-severe threat for the northern portion of the Southeast. And for the next 48 hours, we're going to see that system leave the area, and then we're going to see those clouds and more storms move through towards the middle, and that will be impacting our area by the end of the week. It'll start up in Little Rock, Arkansas on Wednesday evening. And for our 72-hour rainfall forecast, we're going to see that rain move through, and the majority of the rain we're going to see mostly in Tennessee. We'll be seeing 3 to 5 inches there, so quite a soaker for the most part. And as we're looking at Tennessee, we're going to see that rain move through by Thursday, but it is going to cool down to 67 degrees, and our lows are going to be sitting in the mid-40s. And for Charleston, South Carolina, it is pretty warm there as well. We're sitting at 83 tomorrow, 79 on Wednesday, and 81 on Thursday, but no chance of rain for the near future. And for tonight, it's going to be pretty mild as well. Slightly cooler up north. It's going to be 47 in Little Rock, 69 in New Orleans, and then for our Tuesday, it's going to be very hot as well. What is the story for the rest of the nation, Aaron?
Well, the story here across much of the nation is actually a tale of two stories. We have that wintry-like weather across much of the west coast, and then of course that scorcher here across the east coast. And that map actually here shows really nice here. So I'll actually step out of the map here, that way you can kind of see the contrast across the nation there with those 50s and 40s across the west coast, and then those 70s and 80s primarily across the southeastern part of the United States. And the reason why we have this is because we have that big trough here that's digging into the west coast, we'll show here in just a second, and also that ridge here building across much of the east coast. And we also see that on satellite radar with that area of low pressure to the north that's staying to our north, because we have the building ridge here across the Gulf of Mexico into towards the Atlantic Ocean. And then we have those drier conditions behind it here across the plains, where they're actually seeing the drier-like conditions. So they're actually, their temperature actually feeling like their temperatures there across the portions of the country. And then we also have our incoming system across the west coast, bringing in another round of snow and some rainfall across the Cascades and the Sierra Nevadas. So our current dew points, we feel the mugginess in the air here. And again, if you're playing spot the cold front, it's right here along the Gulf Coast from about San Antonio upwards towards about Detroit. That's where we have that really moist, soupy air underneath there, at least in our area. And then we have that drier just behind it across much of the Central Plains. And as for the SPC storm outlook, we do have the potential for perhaps a slight chance of severe weather, primarily across Ohio and Cincinnati in those regions, and then also a general risk that does extend down towards about the Atlanta metro area. And then off towards the west coast, we do have the chance perhaps of some generalized thunderstorms around the Great Salt Lake there in Utah, and then over towards much of the western portions of California. Just to zoom in a little bit closer here, as we do have that area of low pressure just spinning near Chicago, that will continue off towards the east, and at least in front of that, where that cold front there is, where we have that energy up in the atmosphere, we have the potential for perhaps a spin up or two near Cincinnati, at least over the next day or so. And stay with me, folks, I might get a little bit dizzy here, but we do have one area of low pressure here across the Ohio River Valley. We also have another area of low pressure here across the Portland area. And what that's allowing, at least what's allowing the atmosphere to do, is have that moisture out ahead of these two systems. And that's what, of course, is going to allow for the chance of snow, precipitation, all the good stuff. So our drought monitor, we actually don't see the precipitation where it needs to be at. It needs to be at least here across Kansas and Oklahoma, where they're actually in an exceptional drought right now. And if we can actually just bring some of that precipitation over, perhaps it might help with the situation there. But even that, it'll take a long time for it to actually heal that. So if we look at our surface analysis map, we have the at least area of low pressure here with that cold front tagged right behind it. We also have another area of low pressure here that's entering in from Canada, and that actually might perhaps provide at least a reinforcing shot at that cooler air as it makes its way off towards the south and the east. And that snowfall over the next several days or so, at least through the rest of the week or so, as that area of low pressure does make its way inland here across the western portions, at least across the Four Corners, we do have the potential for some snow from about the Front Range over towards the west there. And then we also have the potential for some of that snowfall here, at least in upper portions of New England, so Syracuse, Boston, perhaps the chance of a few areas of snow. And the Euro model does depict perhaps some precipitation over the next several days across the Gulf Coast, at least ahead of our next system that actually is coming in on Friday. So that warmer air we've been seeing is actually going to come to an end here, folks. But ahead of that, we will have potential for some rain showers across the Gulf Coast, somewhere probably around the ballpark of about a half an inch or so, maybe a few higher amounts as you go further inland across Mississippi into Tennessee. But overall, we should stay fairly, at least not soaked here. And as for active alerts across the nation, we do have that fire weather warning here, primarily across the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles behind that cold front system we had yesterday, and that will give perhaps the chance of some fire. So do watch out if you are actually going to be out there with any burns. But Nico, we'll actually take a look here at some wintry weather. So how is it actually looking like across the West Coast?
Oh, so it's going to continue to be cold, and unfortunately, much of these areas that have already got a lot of rain and a lot of snow are going to get some more later on this week. As Aaron was talking about, this low pressure system that started up in the north around Alaska basically brought winter weather all the way down the Pacific coast, and even down in Los Angeles, you might not expect there was some snow. So these are the current temperatures right now up here in Clear Lake in central to northern California. Temperatures are in the 30s, and a little bit more south, it's still pretty chilly in the 50s, and in the 60s, a little bit more to the east. And here you can see the wind speeds. As you can see here, all this wind is coming right from the Pacific coast. So what this does is it advects a lot of moisture, and as soon as it hits the Sierra Nevada range, that's a great recipe for snow, and that's why you've been seeing these really large amounts of snowfall in this region. And also there is really strong winds right now in the Sierra Nevada region, with Long Pine having 22 miles per hour, Fernley 22 as well. So if you are there, please keep a lookout for those strong winds. And here you can see our current radar right here. That's the mountain range right here. As soon as it hits those peaks, it turns into snow. So most of what's west of the mountains is getting lots of precipitation, but once it gets a little bit cooler near the tops of those mountains, it basically turns into snow, and folks can probably be trapped there with several feet of snow, several inches, as they've already received. And here you can see basically most of the Pacific coast is under some sort of wintry weather advisory or watch. Most of Northern California is currently under a warning, so they will continue to get snowfall for most of the next few days. And then a little bit farther west, there is an advisory, so you might see some snow. And a little bit over here to the east is where that fire weather watch is going on right now. And as for our SPC storm outlook, there is a non-severe risk right now, but there will continue to be some more precipitation and snow, as I was saying, for the time being. And here in the Euro rainfall, you can see this Sierra Nevada range is going to continue to get maybe again 3 to 5 inches of rain by Thursday, and even farther west they're going to get maybe 1 or 2 inches for the rest of the week. So this area that's already very, very saturated, that already has received so much rain and snowfall, is going to continue to get more. So please be on the lookout for landslides, and for just be careful when you're driving. And so here you can see the snowfall that was a famous photo off Hollywood. This is foggy, kind of mixed precipitation that you saw here. And in the Southern California region, it created large amounts of snowfall that is really unprecedented for this region and for this time. I've actually been to California in January, and I don't think I experienced temperatures below 50. So to have snowfall in Southern California is something that's truly remarkable. And so right now in Los Angeles, temperatures are going to stay below 60 for the most part. There's a low of 37 on Wednesday, and luckily by Thursday things will seem to clear up and get a little bit more sunny. And in Spokane, Washington, a little bit more north, Tuesday it's going to be snowy at 39, but then it will heat up again by Thursday a little bit at 41, but you will still expect some precipitation and some snow. And in Denver, it's going to stay chilly with 40 on Thursday. Now I'm going to pass it off to Caitlin for a look at windy conditions.
Yeah, we had really windy conditions in Tallahassee today. If you step right outside the OAS building in that breezeway, it'll send you flying. We had 25 mile per hour wind gusts today on campus and around Tallahassee. And so that's just going to bring up the question of wind safety, because it's with every weather phenomenon, there comes an attachment of safety. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like. Your obvious things are putting things that are outside of your house inside. So you don't want to have your patio furniture that's sitting outside on your lawn out and about flying. You kind of want to put it inside or like attach it to the ground, because nobody, in all honesty, wants your trampoline in their yard. So if you have windy conditions coming, do lock down all the things in your backyard that could potentially fly into someone else's house or their yard, because that's just not safe. Also, when you're doing things, you also don't want to wear clothing that will fly away either. You want to wear clothing that kind of is secure to you, because you don't want your clothes helping you to catch onto things, to help you fly. And you don't underestimate wind. So we were warned today that it was going to be windy, and we're not going to be like, oh, because I'm warning that it's windy, I'm just not going to care. Strong winds can happen in really nice blue sky days and really clear days like it was today, and can still have negative impacts. So as you're out on campus today, you probably noticed it was 85 degrees, plenty of sunshine. We didn't really have to worry about cold temperatures, but those winds can still cause damage. So even on really nice clear sky days, you don't want to be acting like the wind isn't a big deal. The wind also affects our fire danger risk. So when we've had these dry conditions, we haven't had rain in like over a week, even over 2 weeks even. So we are looking at really dry conditions. With this extra increase of wind, if you do have a burn, it will easily catch on fire somewhere else you maybe didn't want to do. There is the controlled burns happening in Wakulla County, and those are having to be really monitored while we're having these like heavy wind gusts, because we don't want them to spread. We don't want to be like California. Though they're in snow right now, they usually have the tendency to have really extensive wildfires. So if you could just prevent all your burning activities or plans until later this week when we have that rain move in and the wind come down, that would probably be your best bet, because fire safety and wind safety are priorities in this area, especially when we have winds today sitting about 9 to 17 miles per hour, and there was wind gusts at 25 miles per hour. So definitely be thinking about that. You want to bring all your furniture in, wear really tight, secure clothes. Don't hang outside AOAS right out there, running right out the door. That breezeway it's like killer. And do think about the fire safety issue of it as well, because you don't want to be out there and there's lots of rain and wind and fire, or there's lots of fire and you're not prepared for the safety aspect of it. But Spencer's going to talk a little bit about the lifestyle here. So all this negativity about fire and wind safety, we're going to pass it over to Spencer. He's going to talk about what's happening around town.
Thank you, Caitlin. So taking a quick look at the Tallahassee general area, we're looking at gorgeous and beautiful sunsets throughout the entire region: St. George Island, Lake Bradford, the Sportsplex, and Panama City, all looking gorgeous. This is very fitting as we are getting into the spring break season. And so looking right now in Tallahassee, we have a bit of a warm spot here in Tally at 79 degrees, 72 degrees in Apalachicola, and 73 degrees in St. Mark's. Again, a little bit cooler on those cities which are hugging the coast. And looking at our current dew point, so dew point is a measure of how much moisture the air can hold, so it's almost a sense of how muggy it is. So sitting here at 71, that's pretty muggy down in Apalachicola. 67 here in Tallahassee, that's a little up there, but not too bad. And tapers off a little bit as you go a little bit more north. 61 in Thomasville and 63 in Valdosta. So taking a look for Florida State men's basketball, I believe it is the final game of our season. We're playing UNC, North Carolina, 7 p.m. on tonight, actually. So winds will be out of the southwest at 16 miles an hour with gusts of 29 miles an hour. So definitely we're happy that this is an indoor basketball game. We don't want those basketballs flying around. And tonight, if you do like to stargaze, I do from time to time, we're going to have gorgeous viewing conditions. Shouldn't be too cloudy or too muggy, so you should be able to see the stars and the planets really nice. So not too many, really any delays here in Tallahassee to speak of. Maybe a little bit of rainstorms that could possibly come up, but probably not. Looking at beautiful 76 degrees, and again, no delays. Taking a look at the rest of the country, no delays to speak of, although it is definitely a lot colder in New York and Denver for this time of year. It's about 49 degrees in Denver and 38 degrees in New York, so I want to bundle up if you're going to be traveling in and out of those areas. And tomorrow for Tallahassee, again, another very warm day, 84 degrees, partly cloudy, and winds out of the west-southwest about 13 miles an hour. And tomorrow's marine forecast. So if you are going to be bringing your boat out into Apalachicola Bay or the Gulf of Mexico, we can see seas will be around 2 to 3 feet, so that's not too bad, but we do have a fairly high risk of rip current. So just know if you are in a rip current, never fight the rip current, let it take you out, and then swim parallel back to the shore. That's the best way to get out of a rip current. And tomorrow's pool cast, you can see, it's going to be starting off 73 degrees, and by 3 o'clock, that's going to be 83 degrees. So taking a quick look at our next weekday planner, we can see temperatures sitting in the mid-80s throughout the rest of the week, and lows only getting as low as 66 degrees. So tell me, Autumn, what can we look like? What can the rest of Tallahassee look like the next few days?
Hello, Tallahassee. It's Autumn here for Florida State University weather, and what a beautiful sight over Doak Campbell Stadium here we could see tonight. The sun has been setting to our west, and we're noticing some pinks and blues in the skies. We've had some clouds rolling by at some pretty fast temperatures. As I'm sure we've all noticed, it's been very windy today, so we've seen these clouds roll by pretty fast all day today. This wind that we've been seeing today has caused some cooler temperatures down here on the coastline around the Big Bend. And as you can see, it gets warmer as we get closer mainland, sitting around 79 today in Tallahassee. So it's pretty warm out. These winds have gotten pretty fast. As we've seen in Tallahassee, we've been hit by 15-mile-an-hour winds going through today. Now, these winds and clouds haven't been carrying too much precipitation. We're seeing some scattered showers moving through. We shouldn't see anything too major as for precipitation until sometime around 5 in the morning tomorrow. We're going to see this belt of rain come through from the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll see that pass through Tallahassee early tomorrow morning. As for our tonight's forecast, beautiful conditions here in Tallahassee, not too warm and not too cool. This breeze will keep us cool. It's not too humid, and we'll have the temperatures starting at 73 tonight, and it'll only drop down 1 degree around 1 a.m. tonight. Probably when you're going to bed, it'll be around 72 tonight. It's partly cloudy. These clouds shouldn't be raining much tonight as we saw those scattered showers, so we'll just have some cloudy conditions over the night tonight. Lowest temperatures will drop is 69 this evening, I'm sure, as you're sleeping, with the speeds of winds slowing down to about 5 miles an hour coming in from the south-southwest. Tonight's forecast, it'll cool down a bit. We'll have it comfortable around the 70s. We're seeing it creep in the 70s for most of the area. These temperatures are evening out. They've been a bit different between, it's been cooler here and warmer in the mainland, but tonight we'll see those temperatures kind of balance out, and we'll all creep around the 70, 71 for the rest of the evening. As for our week ahead here in Tallahassee, we'll have some cloudy conditions, 20% chance of rain tomorrow on Tuesday, and then this will slightly increase as we approach our weekend, but luckily it looks like our Saturday and Sunday will be nothing but sunny skies. Nico, what's it looking like for the rest of today?
So yeah, here in Tallahassee, it's been pretty warm, and it might seem like we're worlds apart from what's happening out in the Pacific Coast. There they have freezing temperatures, lots of precipitation, lots of snow, and here we're pretty dry for the most part and really warm. But the one thing that's actually in common between both places right now is the really strong winds, and that's why it's important to stress the wind safety like Caitlin was talking about. Here, the last few weeks, actually, we've had a few wildfires and prescribed burns that brought a lot of smoke. So these high wind conditions might be favorable for fire spreading. And out west, these strong wind conditions might cause this precipitation and this snow to go onto the roadways and blur vision for people that are driving through. Now, I also want to congratulate Autumn, who just completed her first show here with FSU Weather. So a big round of applause to her. And I also want to shout out Wanique, who, happy birthday to her, our beloved team leader. Thank you for all you do here at FSU Weather. I always enjoy doing Monday shows, so thank you, Wanique. And if you are watching us, please follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/FSU Weather. Please like us on Facebook at facebook.com/FSU Weather. And if you are watching us live on YouTube, please subscribe so you never miss one of our shows at youtube.com/FSU Weather. And please follow us on Instagram and send us any cool photos you have at FSU Weather. And also, please follow us on TikTok. We do have a TikTok now, so thank you, Nikki, for that. We always try to keep up with our content. And now I want to leave you guys off with a 7-day outlook. I am student meteorologist Nicholas Porcelli. Thank you for watching.